Good evening, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from from Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Fun Fold Friday. I hope you've had a fabulous week. It was pretty long for me with school and the kiddos that I work with and all that good stuff, but it's Friday and it's the weekend, and I'm so happy to have a few days off and some days to craft as well. So tonight we are going to be making a really fun fold. It's called a triple panel pop-up fun fold card that I'm making. The one that I'm making, I could make it a little smaller, but I wanted to go big to make the kind of card that you could not even worry about an envelope and just slip it into a gift bag with a gift, or a card that you want to give to someone really special in your life that you want, something a little bigger and bolder. So I think you're going to like this card that we're making tonight. So I'm going to be using two different bundles tonight, and I'll show you why. I'm going to be using the Everyday Details, and I'm going to be using this stamp with the potted plant and the teacup, and I'm also going to be using one of the greetings. The dies that come with this set are one of the reasons I picked this set, is that they have we have both circles and rectangles, but they all have dots, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that in just a minute. Okay, let me close that one. And then the other stamp set and die that I'm going to be using is the Thoughtful Expressions. And this one I'm going to be using the large floral and the smaller floral image. And this one has some great dies as well. I haven't put them on a magnet sheet yet, but it has not only the dies that cut out the images, but you have these circular and rectangular stitched edge dies that are just really a great set to own. So that is what we're using tonight. And I'm going to use both of these sets of dies. So the card we're making is this one right here. I'm using the die that cuts out the frame and leaves those beautiful dots. I'll bring it up close so you can see the dots that go around the image. And when you open it up, here's where you get the pop-up fun fold when we open up the inside. So you can see that I used some of the circular and one of the rectangular dies. I'm using the floral images. I'm going to add some butterflies in here too as well. But this is the card that we're making tonight. So I'm going to just set that to the side for a minute and go over what we're using for materials. So I said I'm going to add some butterflies tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of blending with just going to make sure I have a blending brush here, blending with these butterflies. But these are the paper butterfly accents. So on each sheet, there are 5 different butterflies that you can just punch out and use. So they're really fun, and you get a total of 40 butterflies, so you get 8 sheets. So we'll be using those tonight. I'm also going to be using the 2023 to 2025 in color dies, and we'll be using the dies, I meant to say dots, and we'll be using the Boho Blue. And then for cardstock, let me just get out my sheet. You're going to need a 10 by 7 piece of Boho Blue cardstock. You are going to need a piece of, we're only going to use Boho Blue and Basic White tonight. You're going to need a piece of Boho Blue cardstock that measures 3 3/4 by 6 3/4. We're going to be scoring both of those in a few minutes. You're going to need a piece that measures 4 by 6, and I have already embossed this and die cut, and I'll be talking about both of those as we go along. You're going to need 2 pieces that are, get these together correctly. You're going to need 2 pieces that are 2 1/4 by 4 1/8, and you're going to need 1 piece that is 2 1/2 by 4, and we're going to need those on the inside of the card. Now you're also going to need some scraps that you are going to be cutting out 2 of the circles from the Thoughtful Expression dies and 1 of the more rectangular die. So that's everything for Boho Blue. Now for the basic white. You are going to need a piece that measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and this is for, let's see which part. This is going to go behind the frame that we make. So there's that. You're going to need 2 pieces that measure the 4 by 6, and I embossed both of these pieces, and I used the basic embossing folder, so I think you can see the embossed images, and I did that, use that on the frame as well. You're also going to need 2 pieces that measure 2 by 3 7/8, and I embossed these as well. And then finally you're going to need a piece that measures 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 that I also embossed. You're going to need some scraps to die cut out in white. The circle die for our sentiment, and you're going to need a scrap of white. Oh, just 1 minute, I'm sorry. Hi, I'll buzz you up. Sorry about that interruption. My Stampin' Up order is coming in, and so I had to take that call, so I apologize for that. And then you're going to need a scrap of, or a piece of basic white cardstock. I'm just going to pull out a scrap piece that I'm going to use to do my stamping on. I don't need one that big, but that's the closest scrap that I have. And then and on that scrap, we're going to do all of our stamping. And because there are very few, there are dies for the 2 flowers that we're cutting, but everything else doesn't have a die, so we'll be hand cutting those out. And again, I've already done those so that you're not watching me just doing some die cutting. So let me just move these things out of the way, and we're going to do some construction first, because I think that will be, get that part out of the way, and then we can do our stamping and getting everything ready. So I'm going to take out my score pal, my scoring board. Let me get these 2 pieces out of the way and get this to a place that you can see what I am doing. There we go. And I'll make it a little straighter for you. All right, so I am going to put this piece here along the 10-inch side, and I am going to score this at 5. This is going to be a 5 by 7 inch card. So, like I said, it's a much bigger card. So that's all the scoring I'm going to do on the big piece. But then on this small piece, and this is what I'm going to be making the mechanism on, I am going to be scoring along the shorter end. This is the 3 3/4 inch end, and I'm going to be scoring at 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to be scoring at 1 7/8 of an inch, and I'm going to be scoring at 2 7/8 of an inch. So let me just go over that again. So it's at 7/8 of an inch for our first score, then at 1 7/8 for our second score, and our third score is at 2 7/8. And that's the scoring that we're going to do on that piece. So we can put the scoring tool away, and let's do our, let me just get my bone folder. So I'm going to give this piece a really nice burnish on the edge on the fold with my bone folder. And I'm going to do the same thing on this piece of paper. I am going to be folding this in to make a long rectangular prism. This one is folded. I'm going to go in and I'm going to fold on each one of these. I want to fold them all the same way because in the card, that's the way it is going to go. So this is the piece that is going to pop up, and it's the piece that is going to hold up if I bring the card. So it's this piece that pops up right here, and it is going to hold these flaps. Okay. So inside my card, the first thing that we're going to do is before we add this piece here, we're going to be adding our 2 large pieces that we embossed. And I am just going to be centering them on the piece of cardstock. And I can bring it over a little more to the edges if I want to, because this piece is going to be going right in here. So it is going to cover up a little bit on both sides. So let me get my Stampin' Seal. You can use any adhesive that you normally use. I normally use the Stampin' Seal. So that's the route I'm going to go. I love just adding the texture to the pieces of white, and on the front it just adds such a nice dimension to the card. Okay, there we go. We have our 2 pieces in. Now what I want, as I said, one end is going to go on the right hand side of the fold, and the other end is going on the left hand side of the fold. So it's going to be touching both sides, and it's going to be these 2 pieces. I can actually put one down and then put the other one down because they're going to go right in like this. And I'm going to line this score line with the score line in the card, and then when it's like that and it closes up, it'll open up like that. So I am going to be putting my tear and tape, because I want this to be held in really strongly and tightly. I'm going to use tear and tape because it is going to give the best hold for the piece of the card that's going to be the most active or moving a lot. So I want to make sure I've got a good amount of adhesive on it, and a really strong adhesive. So I really like using the tear and tape when I need to have a really strong adhesive. Some people like to use the Stampin' Seal Plus. I haven't had a great deal of luck with that. I find that it tears my cardstock as I'm putting it down. So obviously I'm doing something wrong probably. But I've just never been able to get it to work for me. So I tend to not use it. I have it, I just tend to not use it. For everyday projects, the Stampin' Seal is very strong, so I don't need to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is center this. It's a little shorter than the card. So we're going to have a little bit of a border at the top and the bottom. But the biggest part I want to match up is the score mark here in the middle. So when this pops up, so I'll set it like this so you can see what that looks like on the inside. So when it pops up and closes, it's going to be in there securely. So that's what the inside is going to look like. Okay, so on the front of the card, I am going to be putting, and what I did was I actually added a little extra room on this, on the first card I made. It was just pretty difficult to put it in with that tiny of a border. So I just made a cut a little differently. And so I'm going to be adding, I'm going to actually do something I rarely do. I'm going to stamp after I put my frame on, because I want to make sure I get very close. I want it centered in my frame. So that's my main reason. So I'm going to take this piece and I am going to center it onto my white cardstock. There we go. Much easier to do than when it was on the smaller piece. So to get this onto the front of the card, I'm going to do my stamping first, and then I can color it afterwards. So I am going to use the large stamp with the frame, with the pot and the floral image in it. And I am going to stamp that right in the center. And there we go. So we have our image stamped and nicely done. Let me just get some of these scraps out of here. All right. Now this is going to go right on front of the card when we're done, and we're going to be adding some ribbon to it. I'm going to show you how I did the ribbon, but we're going to do a little coloring on here. So what I'm going to do is I keep my Stampin' Blends right in a container that's right to my right. It's off the screen, but it allows me to keep them out of the way. So I'm just trying to, I have so many blues. So here are my Boho Blue markers, and I'm going to start by coloring in the vase. Now you're going to see people, when they're coloring with alcohol blends, do this in a variety of ways. I prefer to start with the light color and go to the dark, but you're going to see some people who like to start with the dark and then move to the light. So because this is a bigger image, I'm going to use the paintbrush end to my marker. I'm going to color over even the bottom that is darker, and then kind of just color in the center. Now, the nice thing with these blends is that you don't have to know anything about coloring. I can leave that just like that if I want, and it's a beautiful blue. I can also add some shading, which I have to be honest, I'm not very good at, but I'm just going to go over here to the right and add a little bit of darker over here to do some shading with. When I first put it on, it looks pretty dark. Now I'm going to go back with my lighter color and I'm going to start blending that in. And I'm just kind of going to go in little ovals until it's blended in. And I'm going to get a little bit of a color variation. Not a lot, because it just gives a little bit. So that's what I'm doing there. So I'm going to use Granny Apple Green for my, I'm going to start with that lighter shade. And actually I'm going to use these are small leaves, so I'm going to use the smaller end of my brush. For the leaves, I'm not going to do much blending, but what I am going to do is I'm going to come back in with the dark Stampin' Blend, and I'm going to add a little bit of dimension to it. And I'm going to actually use the lines here and just put a little bit down the middle, right along the stem. And that will blend in a little bit and give it just a tad of dimension. Okay, so I'm done with those for right now. Let me just put these back so they're out of the way. And I'm going to grab my Flirty Flamingo. Oh, I did that first time. I have a lot of pinks too. And I am going to go into these flowers and I'm going to use I always like to take my big end first. And I'm going to stay with the big end. And just lightly color these in. And then again, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to put a little dark in the center. And I'm going to just let it bleed into the other color. It's going to add just a little bit of dimension. All right, those are done. And next I'm going to take my Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to color the next smallest flower in with the light. And then I'm going to take the dark and just go over the highlighted area right on the stamp. Kind of shows where the shading should be. And I'm going to add that to the middle of the flower. And again, it just gives it some dimension. And then finally, I am going to take my Highland Heather, I believe. And I'm going to color in using the light, making it a really light purple to start with. And then I'm going to use the dark to go in. Give it some dark in the middle. And then blend that outwards. and it's going to give it a little bit of, there we go. So that's the front of our card. Just bring that up so you can see that a little better. Very pretty. We're going to be adding some other stuff as we go along. So I'm not going to put this up on dimensions. It's just going to go right on the front of our card. And then I'm going to add the bow to the front by taking some of the Boho Blue ribbon. And what I like about this is I usually don't like to have ribbon going through the center of a card, but we've got this beautiful little hiding place that the ribbon can go through. And can cut it. I try to pin each of my ribbons so that it holds it in place. So when I'm storing it, I don't have to worry about the ribbon going everywhere. I actually keep a little jar of pins right on my desk. Well, I usually do. I don't see them. I had decorated it all, made it cute. But with this, all I'm going to do is tie a knot. I'm not going to tie a bow because this is such a big card. I didn't think it really needed that attention that a big bow would bring to it. So I'm just going to go in and sort of go to the middle, though I can move it afterwards, and tie the knot. Let me just keep this tight. I always feel such like a klutz when I'm tying during a presentation. There we go. So I've got my knot here, and I'm just going to trim the ends. There we go. So now we're ready to start working. I'm going to set this aside and we're going to do our other stamping. So the things that we need to stamp, we are going to need our teacup, and we're going to need our 2 sets of flowers. So I'm just using Memento Black because it will allow me to use my blends and color these in nicely. There we go. And then the last one is our teacup with the flower on it. And that will go right here. These are all really easy. I'm not worried about that. And then the last thing that I am going to stamp is the greeting. And the greeting says, "I'm wishing you so much joy on this special day." So I'm going to stamp that on the little tag. There we go. So our stamping is all done. I'm just going to set that there. So what I would do normally is color this and cut them out. But through the magic of television, I have already, this one here and the flower, the floral image, these actually had die cuts that I was able to use. So these two, and the teacup, I just fussy cut it out. And then I have my 2 butterflies. So I want to take my, I'm going to just take the back of my little cheat with all of my dimensions on it. And I'm going to put these down, and I'm going to grab my Boho Blue ink. And this is something I'm going to do a little different. And I'm going to grab a blending brush. And I'm going to pick up some Boho Blue ink. And I'm just going to go over the image and add just a tad bit of color to it. You can use these as stencils too. So here I have my first one all done, and let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking the blending brush, adding some of the Boho Blue ink, and I'm just going over the butterfly and adding some blue ink to it. So it's just going to be a nice light blue. So on the inside of the card, I'm going to put those in, I think, last. So let me just set those aside. But we've got everything ready now to start putting things together. So let's get everything out. Okay, so first thing first, these layers that I had cut and had added the embossing, I am going to now attach to their Boho Blue layers. So just going to add a little bit of adhesive and center these right on the first one. And here's one of the smaller ones. And here's the other small one. I am not going to use many dimensionals on this card because it's already a pretty hefty, thick card. I am going to add dimensionals to the front and use on this label, but I don't want to add much more thickness. It's already going to cost more to mail if you have to get a bigger envelope or make your own envelope. And you're going to have to, because it's an odd size, pay extra postage. That's why I said this is a great card to throw into a gift bag. It's a pretty special card too. So then I'm going to next add the pieces to the center of each of these. So the smaller ones get the circles. Just adding a little adhesive, and I'm going to put them on the same way, the same direction. So there's the two smaller ones, and then we have the larger one that is going to just be centered in the area that's left. So I'll center that. There we go. On the large piece, we're going to put let's see how I want that. We're going to put this piece of, so I did do it that way, okay. So I'm just going to add adhesive to the back of the floral image, and then I'm just going to, I'm going to set it so the leaves go diagonal and the floral image is up and down. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm not good at centering it on the camera, am I? Then the teacup is going to go on next. Again, I'm just going to add that adhesive. And the teacup is going to go right in the center here. And it's going to look like this. And then we're going to add the small set of flowers onto the other circle. And that's really pretty with the pink floral images. Okay, now we're ready to just finish the putting it together. So this front circle, let me just take off the backing, is going to go right down here in the corner. There we go. So it just has a nice little spot. On the inside, the bigger image, these three pieces are going to fit exactly down here. So this one here is actually going to go on this side, and I want to make sure the other two are going to fit in there. So I'm only going to put adhesive right along that lower piece. And again, I'm going to make sure that everything is going to fit before I press it down. And I'm not going to press it down all the way yet. Okay, so there's our first piece. The other two pieces are going to go on the top. So I am going to, again, put some adhesive along the bottom. And this piece here is going to go right here. And then the only thing I'm going to make sure is that I don't have any of the card hanging out of the when we fold it. And then that piece is going to go there. We're going to close this and press down. I do have a few the middle one is okay, but I've got, so I just want to make sure this is all the way as far back as it can be. If I find that it's not, this piece where the adhesive is, I can trim it down with my scissors just a bit, so that, because this is going to be right into the fold. And now you can see that I don't really see that very much, which again, if you know, it's fine to take a little piece off. I choose to take the little piece from the inside so it doesn't show as much. So now I think it's going to be fine. So let me just close that piece, and that's in there really nice. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this bottom piece. Just trim a little bit of the inside off. Found it's the way you end up folding your paper. If it's not folded absolutely perfectly, you might have some of it hang out. And there we go. That's all fixed now. So I'm just going to make sure that those are down really securely. And now that's the inside of our card. So now what I can do is I can add my little butterflies in some different spots. So I'm going to take my silicone mat and I'm going to add some adhesive. Oops, I just took off one of the, so I'm just going to cut off the other one. I pulled this little antenna off. I'm just going to take some of the liquid glue and put a couple dots of the glue in a couple places where there's lots of room. It's not going to take a lot of glue to hold this in place. And then I'm going to just pick it up and put this one in just right here. So you can see it right under that first one. And then the other one, the larger one, I am going to actually place on the other side up towards the top. And again, you don't need a lot of glue to hold it down. Just in some key spots. And this one is going to go right here at the top. So let me just press that down. So that's what it looks like on that side. So I can close this up and we'll go to our dots. And I'm going to add a small dot right here on the label. And I'm going to take 2 of the medium-sized dots. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we'll use the other end. And I am going to put those up here on the white. There we go. And this one right beside it. And that concludes our card for this week. So we have this beautiful floral image on the front. When we open up the card to the inside, we've got the butterflies and the floral images. I think it's just beautiful, and here's the original without the butterflies, and I really like the addition of the butterflies on the inside. I'll try to hold these and compare them so you can see the difference with the butterflies and without the butterflies. I like the butterflies. All right, so that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Remember, I'll be back Sunday night for Simply Stamping Sunday. We are using the Planted Paradise and very best occasions stamp sets for the month of March. And this week I have 2 more cards to make for you to go with our set. So I hope you're able to join me and at the end of the weekend. And of course I'll be back next Friday night for another edition of Fun Fold Friday. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.